We'll try to make this as enjoyable as possible, certainly pain-free. If you're looking for fixed assets, project accounting, CRM, this is not the place. I'm sure those options are available. But this is the session on Introduction to Dynamics GP Payroll and Human Resources, or Human Resources and Payroll, however you prefer to say it. We will say it as many different ways as we possibly can. I want to take a quick poll just so we can kind of gear things correctly, just because we've done absolutely no preparation for this, so we're totally kidding. I'll stop kidding so you'll know when
I don't know, I got 10 minutes prep in.
Oh, that's good for lunch. How many people are currently using Dynamics GP Payroll? Okay, about 7. Okay. How many people are familiar with Dynamics GP but don't use payroll? Okay. How many have never seen Dynamics GP before in their life? A few.
3.
Okay.
Yep.
That's important because I want to make sure that I don't spend too much time talking about things that you already know. That would really not make this very valuable for you. So that just helps me sort of, especially at the beginning of the demo that we do, not show you remedial things, okay? Quick introductions. My name is Dan Doolin from Integrity Data. We're a Microsoft partner. We've been a partner since 1996. I've been working with Dynamics GP, mostly in the payroll human resources area, for about 13 years. There's my mugshot, contact information, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Twitter, all the usual suspects there. So feel free to contact me with any questions that you come up with. As a Microsoft partner, we provide enhancements to Dynamics GP Payroll and Human Resources. We work very closely with Microsoft to help them build out the right features for you all to make sure that it's a good solution for everyone as we interact with our customers and they interact with their customers and our research and their research. We try to put it all together to come up with something that's very useful. So feel free to ask questions of me after the session. We'll have Q&A at the end, so try to make sure we got a lot to get through, so we'll make sure we get through that and have time for questions. Even if we don't get through all of our stuff, we'll make sure that we have time for questions. Okay? This next guy.
I'm Keith Schmidt. I've been with Integrity Data about 10 and a half years. And I have done design work for a couple years. I did testing on the product in QA. And then for 5 years, I traveled all around the country implementing on-site mostly at that time. In the public sector and healthcare industries is my primary one. I did some hotel and like 7-Eleven implementation type companies. And I am going to do the part on the extended pack. So Dan's going to walk through the GP, HR and payroll. Then I'll be up for a brief time and do the extended pack features and talk about them. So I'm going to turn it back to Dan.
All right, thanks. The flow, which is a term I like to use because I'm tired of using agenda, is we're going to talk about, we're going to do introductions and talk about the session goals, which we've already done the introduction, so we're already making progress. We're going to review the GP 2013 licensing changes to Dynamics GP, which is a big part of why we're here and why Microsoft asked us to do this session. We're going to talk about what's in Dynamics GP Payroll and Human Resources at a very high level. The perspective that we took was the perspective that you might already be using Dynamics GP. You've heard about the fact that payroll is included in the new licensing structure in the starter pack, and so you might be thinking about taking a look at bringing your payroll in-house. So we're going to make this very high level, but give you a quick overview of what's payroll look like in Dynamics GP. Okay, so I'm going to do a demo of that. I'm going to spend about 15 or 20 minutes showing you some highlights. And then Keith is going to take over and talk about the extended payroll and HR pack, so some additional options you can add into the payroll and human resources. We'll talk about some additional payroll and HR resources, so other organizations besides Microsoft as well as Integrity Data that are experts in that subject matter area, subject matter experts, that can also provide you assistance as you evaluate and as you look at Dynamics GP, payroll, and human resources. Okay. We'll summarize and draw some very interesting conclusions at the end. Not very brainy for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but we will do that, and then we'll have time for Q&A and whatever final thoughts might be lingering around in our heads. Okay? So that's the flow. We're going to try to stick to that as well as we can, and we'll see what happens. So the reason that we're doing this session, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, is that the licensing is changing for Dynamics GP as Dynamics GP 2013 is now available. So it used to be that if you really wanted to license Dynamics GP, you would license by user. Okay, so you buy a user, that user would have access to certain modules within Dynamics GP. But if you really wanted to use payroll, you had to buy the payroll module, the human resources module, as well as some other modules such as direct deposit, which we'll show you a list. And that was an additional cost, an additional license that you had to acquire off of the Microsoft price list. A la carte price list is what we typically call it. So in addition to those users, you had to buy the additional modules. So the change with Dynamics GP 2013 is that as you move to that license model, or if you're just going to newly acquire Dynamics GP, payroll and human resources and all the tools that go with it, other than the extended pack, are included in what they call the starter pack. So as you look at the slide, the starter pack includes finance, distribution, human resources, and payroll, as well as a bunch of other modules. Okay, so essentially, payroll and human resources is now included in the Dynamics GP license. So as you migrate up to that license level as an existing customer, you'll receive those modules as part of your license. You'll no longer have to pay for those licenses. So the reason why we're here is the fact that Microsoft has received some feedback from customers, as they were hoping to, that some customers that have not used payroll in the past are now thinking about utilizing the payroll and human resources modules within Dynamics GP. It makes sense if it's included, and we've been in the payroll and human resources world long enough to know that a lot of customers that use Dynamics GP outsource their payroll to Paychex or Ceridian or ADP in a lot of cases, and that works well for a lot of organizations. Now, we're not here to make the case that you should bring it in-house for sure, or that you should keep outsourcing that. What we want to do is give you some baseline information about what's included with payroll and human resources. So if you're starting to go through that evaluation process, you can make a good business decision. We can't get into costs and things like that just because we don't know your specific example. So we're not going to really go down that road. We're just going to introduce you to the product and hopefully give you some good insight into some of the capabilities that it can do. So then you can then decide whether you want to continue that conversation or continue that evaluation to determine if, we may want to use payroll that's within Dynamics GP now that it's included in the license. Okay, that was the session goals summary. Okay, so the starter pack includes payroll and human resources. That's kind of the big new thing. The extended pack for Microsoft is some additional features. From a payroll and human resources perspective, the starter pack includes payroll for both the United States as well as Canada, and that's for unlimited employees. Previously, it was priced by employee tier, 101 to 250 employees, et cetera. So now it's unlimited employees. So if you've got 20,000 employees, hey, it's included. Okay, payroll, direct deposit, federal magnetic media, which is for doing the electronic tax filing at the end of the year up to the federal government, and Payroll Connect, which is an interaction between Dynamics GP and ADP. Okay. Human resources management, unlimited employees for human resources. Manager and employee self-service, that's a big one because that was the most expensive piece. And then as well as position control. So if you're a public sector type organization where you do position numbers and seats, then that piece is now included with the starter pack. Okay. So if you were a decent-sized organization, payroll could be $6,000, direct deposit a couple $1,000, magnetic media I think was $750, human resources another $6,000 to $10,000, and license, they had a license for each employee or manager that was on self-service. All that's gone away now, and all these features are included. Big change in price if you're looking at Dynamics GP from a payroll and HR perspective. And how many times do you see prices go down for things? Okay. The extended payroll HR pack. So this is an additional pack of features that you can add into the starter pack that adds features to payroll and human resources. Okay? So you might use this starter pack, you might use this extended pack. See, it's supposed to be easier, but we'll still mess it up. So you might use this extended payroll HR pack if you need specific features, if you have some advanced requirements around payroll, specifically being advanced pay policies, doing some accruals, some fancy postings, some stuff like that. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Human resources, certification management, and so on. There's a piece called PTO Manager, which adds the capabilities for accruing vacation and sick time into the payroll module. And then the Benefit Self-Service Suite adds to that employee and manager self-service and gives you the ability to deploy online benefit enrollment out to your employees. Okay? So that's the extended pack. Starter pack includes payroll and human resources. Extended pack is an additional pack that you can purchase that adds features to payroll and human resources. Okay? All right, let's talk about Dynamics GP Payroll and Human Resources. And again, from the mindset of, I have Dynamics GP, the stuff's now included, should I take a look at it? Here are some questions that might come to mind. Is it integrated? So is it part of the core solution? Is it part of Dynamics GP? Is it integrated with any other modules in Dynamics GP? And we'll show you that it is. Will I be the only one or the first one? The answer is no. There are many thousands of customers and organizations in the United States, as well as about 35 other countries, that use the U.S. payroll module. So there's a very large community of users that use payroll and human resources. A lot of ISVs like us that support those users and help them with implementation and additional features and functions and things like that. So you won't be the only one. You'll join a large group of existing users. Is it intuitive? So how hard will it be for me to pick up on it? Obviously, if you use Dynamics GP already and you're familiar with that, it's just additional functionality with that, same user interface. If you're not using Dynamics GP, it's similar to Outlook. Office has that same user interface feel, and you'll see that in a few minutes. Will it do what I need? Does it have the features and functionality to enable me to run my payroll processes in an efficient manner? And yes, it does. It's very robust. We're just going to scratch the surface of the capabilities of the product and hopefully give you enough of an overview to make it useful and not be too high level, but to let you see that, wow, there's a lot there and a lot of things that you can do with it. How tough is it to use? As I mentioned earlier, it's very intuitive. It's very easy to navigate, a lot of different ways to navigate, and we'll talk about that as well. And one of the most important questions is, can I get all my reports? So the answer is there are over 300 reports that come in payroll and human resources, and that's just in the report writer mechanism. There's other reports as well, and I'm going to show you those lists and walk through, show you some business analyzer reports that are just published to the screen, show you the Smart List tool from a payroll perspective. So no guarantees, but you should be able to get almost all your reports. Okay? All right. Let's get to the fun part. Yeah, let's move this over. Move some furniture here real quick. Switch over so you can see something. All right, Dynamics GP 2013. Still doing it the old-fashioned way. I don't have the web client. Actually, I did have the web client in here, but I didn't want to take any chances with it because it's not released yet. But need to do that. So what I'm showing you is Dynamics GP 2013. Looks a lot like 2010, so if you've seen it, you know it. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the navigation capabilities, how you can choose to navigate as a user, talk about the home page, talk about the area page. And what we're really going to do is look at employee and really get to some employee information at a high level, show you all the information pieces that you can track for an employee, show you how you can do a few things, and talk about some of the main features of the product for about the next 15 minutes. And then Keith is going to walk through some of the extended pack features. Okay? Right, so you can see on the home page that we've got an area or a home page that is specific to me as a user. Okay, so I've got this tailored just a little bit to me as a payroll user by customizing this page. So this is specific to me. Okay, I've got a to-do list there, which are reminders out of the system. Could be tied to a report, a smart list report. Could be tied to the fact that an employee review is due or anything like that. So those reminders will pop up real time. My reports is just a list of my favorite reports. So as I go through the reports in the system and I say, well, golly, I need to run that one every day or every week, I could choose on that window to add those reports directly to my home page, and I can quickly click on that and it will run the report. Okay. So I can get the report that easily. I don't even have to navigate. Okay, you want to scroll down just a little bit. You'll see the quick links, which are really kind of a favorites. So I can add quick links there that are windows that I use very frequently. They're on the quick links page, so I can get to them very quickly, easily. I don't have to navigate through the menu structure. I don't have to remember where they're at, but those are ones that I use fairly often. It could be an internal link or an external link. So it could go out to a website. It could go to another application. It can open a file or just be a Dynamics GP window. You'll also notice on the right-hand side that the Business Analyzer tool, that if you were in the opening session, you saw some pretty neat things with that. But those reports are rendering directly to the home page. Okay? So I can figure that all by myself, and I'm not a technical guy. So I was pretty proud of that. It only took me 2 days, but anyway. It didn't take 2 days, but it felt like it. But so those reports will come out, and you can generate new reports as well. So it doesn't have to be just the 12 payroll or HR KPIs and reports that come with Dynamics GP. You can create new reports as well and have those published directly to your homepage. It's really a quick way to see information that you really need to know about very quickly. Okay, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see some shortcuts, some that we're going to use later in the demonstrations. And then we can navigate to the rest of the system. So if you've never seen Dynamics GP before, what you'll notice is this feels a lot like Outlook. It has for a long time, probably since version 8 or version 9. This is version 12, GP 2013. Okay. So let's figure out how we can start getting to some employee information. The employee we're going to use is Adam Barr. And I'm going to navigate over to what is called the area page. Okay. I'm going to spend just a minute here talking about how Dynamics GP is structured if you're not familiar with it. The first thing that we do when we implement the system is we go to what is called Setup, which you can't see there. There it is. Okay. So think about Setup as being, I want to set up a new deduction code. I want to set up a new benefit code. I want to set up a new pay code to pay employees. So that's everything that you're doing to add new codes to the system. It's not employee specific. It's default information. And it really helps you start to get the initial components in place for the system. When we start assigning those to specific employees, we would do that under cards. So we pull up what is traditionally referred to as an employee card. We start adding codes to that, pay codes, deduction codes, benefit codes, tax information, whatever the case might be. Okay. Once we have that complete, then we can process transactions, in this case, paychecks. And the way that the process works in Dynamics GP is that first the transactions are entered or imported in from a time clock system. Either way, hopefully, if you have any number of employees, I hope you're using a time clock system and can import those. There are tools as well on the employee and manager self-service, such as an electronic time card that can be used over the web or over the intranet. Okay. If you don't want to use that, or if you have an existing time clock system, there are a number of time clock systems and web time clock systems that integrate to Dynamics GP. Process of transactions. Once that's done, we probably want to run some reports. Obviously, that's under reports. And then we've got inquiry routines, as well as, not that anything ever goes wrong, but occasionally you need to reconcile some things, run some utilities. Those are all there. Okay? Let's go over to the left-hand side of the screen. I mentioned reports. Just pull a payroll report list, and what you'll see is that's going to flip through a bunch. think the number is 135 payroll reports. We'll see if I'm right. Nope, 136, okay? Oh, it kept going. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down through these. We're not going to spend time on them. But you can just see all the reports that are already there. Now you can take these and using the report writer tools within Dynamics GP and modify these reports to have them fit your specific needs. Okay, everything from garnishments to lists to historical reports, posting reports from payroll, etc. Okay, lots of reports. The list of human resources reports. Okay, again, going back to the question, does it have all the reports I need? I venture to say yes. Okay. Look at a list of employees. I'm not going to try to impress you with the number of employees that are in the system because it's only like 30. But what we want to do is start looking at how we can navigate. Now you'll see that there's employees that not submitted. Okay. There are some workflow functions included with Dynamics GP. Employee change workflow and an employee onboarding workflow that come with Dynamics GP. Okay. There's other workflow tools out there also that plug into Dynamics GP. We have one available, and there's some other companies that have one available in the Expo Hall as well. But Dynamics GP does include some workflow capabilities around payroll and human resources. So let's take a look at this. A couple things. One is you'll notice the Business Analyzer reports are coming up in the list. So this is just another way to navigate is what it boils down to. I prefer the home page and the menus at the top, which when we go to Web Client, the menus at the top won't be there. I will finally have to change my ways. But this is another way on the area page to be able to navigate and get to that employee information. So we'll see the Business Analyzer reports. I'll highlight my favorite sample employee, Adam Barr. And when I highlight him, you'll see some information show up at the bottom of the screen. And then you'll see information at the top of the screen start to light up. So if you prefer this way of navigation, feel free to use it. I can get to the employee record. I can get to their pay codes, union information, start the termination process if I need to, and really quickly get to a lot of that information that is specific to this employee. Again, just another way to navigate through the system. We talked about how easy is it to use or how difficult is it to use. I think you'll see that you'll find a navigation form that fits your style as a user. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up this employee. We can do that by double-clicking. Okay, I'm going to keep him here, but I am going to go back to the home page. Okay, so here's our employee card. Okay, so obviously as payroll and human resources experts in your organization, the primary thing that you have to do is deal with employees from a data management perspective. Okay, so what's nice is that payroll and human resources and Dynamics GP share the same employee card. So it's not two separate records, it's a shared record. And you'll see that by the fact that I can go to this Go To button in the upper right-hand corner, and I get the payroll information, and I can get the human resources information. Okay. Now, if you're an organization that has a separate staff for payroll and for human resources, you can sort this out using the security model within Dynamics GP. So it's a shared record, but you can separate the tasks using the security model. So if that's something that's important in your organization, that's all taken care of. Okay. Oops. Okay, so let's look at some employee information here. I'm going to start on the payroll side, then we'll talk about human resources information. As you can see on the home page, on the employee card, we've got all the basic information: name, social security number, seniority date, hire date, their status, secondary status, workers' comp information, address, division, department, position, location, and so on. We've even got some additional information at the bottom of the screen. If I click on human resources, you'll see their HR status, personal information, vet information, and so on. And you've also got this fine tool called Extra Fields. Okay, so if there's additional information that you need to track for this employee, you can define what goes in these extra fields. As you can see, I've not defined anything. But you can set 5 dates, 5 alphanumeric fields, 5 numeric fields, 5 currency fields, and 5 checkboxes. So automatically you've got the flexibility to add some specific information that you might want to track within your organization for this employee. As I go up to payroll, we're only going to talk about 3 items here. The first is pay codes, because that's how we pay employees. They typically like us to pay them. Okay. So let's just look at an example. Let's look at hourly. So this is the hourly pay code. We've got the pay rate for this employee, how often they're paid, how that pay is taxed. Okay, so this information comes from some default settings at the setup level for this hourly pay code, other than the pay rate. But the pay rate can be based on a number of factors. Obviously, there are ways to tie pay grade step tables within Dynamics GP to the pay. There's a lot of tools around making sure that this pay rate is correct. Okay, we can look at the historical information for this employee for this specific pay code for this year. Okay, so quickly, as you navigate, you can quickly drill down and get additional information about whatever topic you're looking at. And if you're familiar with Dynamics GP, you know that already. But as you can see, wherever there's a blue underline, that's called a zoom field. Okay, so you can zoom down and get to additional information about that particular field. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at deduction codes. Another quick option on pay codes before I talk about deductions. Salary pay codes, of course. Overtime pay codes, there's a functionality within payroll to do blended overtime rates. So if you might set your overtime pay code to default, but if you have employees that work multiple rates of pay and work overtime, the system does calculate blended overtime rates for those employees. Let's pull up a deduction code. Oops, let's not pull up that one. Okay, there we go, 401k. So this is the 401k deduction code. Okay, so you can see how it's taxed. I just want to show you the zoom. If I drill down, this is the deduction setup. Okay, so this is where I set the default settings under setup, and then I go in and assign it to the employee. What's great about Dynamics GP is if anything changes about this deduction code or pay code or a benefit code, I can come into the setup window, make the change, and when I make the change and save it, it will ask me, do you want to roll down this change to all the employees with this code? And you can say yes. So at the end of the year, when health insurance premiums change, you can go into the setup on the deduction, change the change the deduction for that insurance code, and roll it down to all 500 of your employees. And you make that change once instead of making that change 500 times. Okay? I would prefer to make it once versus 500. Okay? Or if anything about the tax changes or anything like that, the same situation would apply. Dynamics GP does handle garnishments. Okay? So we've got those types of deductions. Different ways of calculating the deduction code: a flat amount, percent of net wages, percent of gross wages, based on specific pay, based on all the pay. Lots of options for handling those deductions. Okay. The benefit codes. The benefit codes are the contribution side or the benefit side of the deduction. So if you think about the 401k, the benefit side would be the match. Okay, so I'm going to show you how those relate with human resources here in just a second. From a payroll perspective, you can see in some of those at the bottom, from use add-on employees down, are either part of the extended pack or some of our products that I have installed in this demonstration environment. Okay, so tax information up are the standard options that are included with the starter pack. Okay, I just want to make sure that was clear. But that's most of the things you need: direct deposit, tax information, deduction codes, benefit codes, etc. Okay? Now, before Keith kicks me off the stage, I need to get moving to human resources. Okay? A couple things around human resource. I'm going to start with a benefit and deduction summary. So I can quickly get to this benefit and deduction summary from the Go To button on the employee card. I want to double-click on the 401k since that's kind of where we started with. Now, this looks different than what we saw when we clicked on 401k from a deduction perspective. There's really two sides of it. Human resources handles the plan provisions and the enrollment. Payroll handles whatever it needs to do to make the paycheck right. Okay? So if human resources team enrolls me in the 401k in human resources, and they got all the paperwork and they put it in, and I'm now in the 401k, when they hit save, all that information will roll down to payroll so that my deduction is set up correctly to withhold 6%, and that my my benefit is set up correctly on the payroll side to handle the company match to the 401k. Okay, so that's how payroll and human resources is one way that they're integrated, and is how they work together to be an integrated human resources and payroll solution. Okay. Once the payroll deduction is withheld from the employee's paycheck, something has to be done with that, right? You can't just keep it. Okay. You can, but you'll end up in jail. So that deduction has to go somewhere. So what Dynamics GP does is gives you the option to create the relationship between a deduction code and a benefit code, as well as tax codes, and a vendor within the payable system of Dynamics GP. So that when those deductions get withheld, it automatically creates the transactions and payables of, hey, you withheld $50,000 in 401k deductions. Pay it to this vendor, and it creates the transactions. Okay, so as you post the payroll, it creates the transactions for you. You can do this for company-wide deductions, such as 401k. You could do it specifically for an employee. Let's say it's for a garnishment, so that when it withholds that garnishment for that employee, it creates the deduction and payables for that specific garnishment for that specific employee to go to a specific vendor. Okay? Again, another way that the system is integrated. Okay? There's a long list of features in human resources, and obviously we're not going to go through all of them today. As a matter of fact, we're not going to go through very many of them. But again, what I want to do is give you an overview of the system and give you a feel for, wow, there's a lot there. Okay, so there are some of the extended pack in here, which is a certification, health and wellness, and so on. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Disciplinary action, reviews. There's applicant tracking, which isn't in this list, but that's under applicants. Position history, injury, illness, determination process, etc. It's all part of the human resources system. Okay. In addition to those 300 and some reports that we showed earlier, there's the Smart List tool that is within Dynamics GP, that if you're using Dynamics GP in any way, you're probably familiar with this. But from a payroll and human resources perspective, we love lists of employees that meet certain criteria. We love lists of employees that are in certain benefit codes, lists of employees that have worked so many hours, or lists of employees that have overtime transactions. And so what we can do is create these lists, or we have certain lists that come with the system, but we can also create new lists, okay, of employees that meet certain criteria. Okay, so there's a list of employees in certain benefit codes. Okay, and we can go up and we can add columns to this list. We can filter on this list. We can sort. We can do all kinds of stuff. And the best part is we can dump it out to Excel and make pivot tables and charts and graphs and do all kinds of things with that. Very easy to do. And in the same way, you can use a tool called Smart List Builder to create additional lists. You can also, along similar lines, create Excel reports, which is a separate feature of Dynamics GP to get to some of the same information. Okay, so from this perspective, the sky is the limit on reports and lists. You have reports that are nice and that you want to use. There's also compliance reports, so those are in there. But this is a way for you to create some of those ad hoc queries or lists that we all like to create. Okay. Now what I quickly want to do is jump over to the manager and employee self-service. If you're not familiar with Business Portal, it is a pre-configured SharePoint site with hooks back into Dynamics GP. Okay, so this is a company-wide tool. We're looking at it, of course, from payroll and human resources perspective. So what will happen is, as an employee, I can log in and get to some of my specific information and even submit changes for that information. I can see my pay stub, and I could even submit my time card. Submit changes for direct deposit. And this has approvals behind it as well. Okay. Just for the record, if you hit print paycheck, it doesn't print you another paycheck. Okay. I've tried it. I thought maybe with the upgrade to 2013 they'd fix that so I could print duplicate paychecks. It didn't work.
Yeah, but in Core GP it does. I don't have my mic on. So you can get that check just like it was printed out in another place in GP. Same with the earnings statements.
You're talking about reprinting the stub, right? Not reprinting the check. Not reprinting the check, but reprinting the stub. From the manager's perspective, the manager can go in, they can view information about his team or her team, submit changes to their profile, check their time card, check their job history, and so on. Okay. That's a quick overview of payroll and HR. We talked about navigation. We talked about getting to employee information. We talked about self-service. We talked about reports. Keith's going to talk about the extended pack now, so I'm going to switch you over to the PowerPoint, Mr. Keith.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so for the extended pack, I'm sure most of you feel like you could probably run off the core, starter pack with what you've seen today. But there's going to be some companies that have other features that they need, and the extended pack was created really to handle those specific business applications to give extended functionality for your company. So there's 7 of these, and they handle various options. I get a little closer so I can see my little cheat sheet. We have a pay policy, part of the extended pack. And this would be typical, like if you're working in, let's take the nurses in a hospital. A nurse works in the oncology department. She's, certified there, but she's also certified to work in the OR room. Maybe she works a little overtime because of an operation. Okay, so she may get a premium because she works in the OR room. She may get a premium also because of her position. It may be a bit different position change. Then she works overtime, so she gets a premium. So the extended pack in the pay policies allows you to do those 3, plus also you can add on a % to a basic pay code, or if she's working in a different pay code area when she does that. Or also, if you have multiple companies, maybe some companies have different add-ons because you're working in this company versus that company. Then another one is the advanced labor reporting. There are 5 reports, advanced labor reporting, that enables you to do various more detailed, in-depth reports. One of them is like a department report. So you got, the department, it lists it by department. Within the department, you're now coming down to every position in that department, then every employee in that position, and then every pay code that the employee gets. And it records hours and dollars as year-to-date and actual up to this point. Next one is post hours to GL. This is an accounting. If we have accounting people in the room and you keep track of unit accounts, so you want to do reporting in the GL based upon the number of employees. So you can map unit accounts to the posting of typical payroll to the expenses, etc. So that's available. Labor accrual manager, this is for the companies who have biweekly or weekly payrolls as opposed to semi-monthly or monthly that ends right on the end of the month. So the accrual manager enables you to create those, 3 or 4 days or 5 days that's not accrued yet for their monthly P&L statements, etc. Then we have a PTO Manager is another extended feature. It has capabilities around waiting periods for leave. You have multiple schedules in addition to what you may get in HR or payroll. Depends on your unique situations in your policies. And I've seen quite a few of those policies that are really unique. They're pretty creative out there when it comes to helping the employees out. Certifications, licensing, and training. Go back to the nurses situation. They have to be certified. You've got teachers that have to be certified. Maybe they're endorsed to teach math, science, etc. So you can also track the endorsements within the certification. Or licensing. Now, they're very similar. One, you can put a specific number in. The other is general. Like a CDL license is pretty general. You may have a specific state that requires a number to be a licensed nurse. So the certification, licensing, and training manager handles those unique additional functionality. Employee health and wellness. This is an example of employee health and wellness in the medical area, and it's a lot of other areas of food service, for example. But here you may require certain tests to be taken. For example, you may want to they may require a TB test, or may require an HIV test, or a hepatitis C test. So employee health and wellness allows you to track that as well as the scores. And then also you can do other things along those lines with employee health and wellness. If you have a wellness program, you can track that also for the employees. And the last one in there in this particular extended pack for extended features, in addition to what Dan was talking about with the business portal, you got the big part of business portal which covers all aspects of your business. But within this, there's a little benefit enrollment piece. So when you have open enrollment, you can enroll your employees through a wizard, and they can sign up for their health insurance, their retirement plan, whatever you would offer them. They can either accept or waive, and that is all set up. In addition to that, if you're doing onboarding and bringing in new employees, you might go through their policies of what's available to them for benefits, and then you could have a kiosk over here. They could sit down, use that, wizard, and they can walk through and onboard that. Once that's done, the manager can review this, and we'll see this in a second, and then submit that to GP, and it sets all that up automatically in GP right straight from there. Okay, Dan, let's look at some of the screens. Oh, I got to punch a number. Thank you. I'll let him be the technical expert. Okay, we're starting with a payroll posting account setup window. This is where the window that has the additional features on the unit account side. The unit account is where you map those units to GL, and then you might do some allocation in GL. So this is where it's going to collect the hours in addition to the pay debits and credits. It's going to collect the hours, put them in unit accounts when it posts payroll on that. The next one we're going to do is labor accrual manager. Dan's going to enter a date in there at the end of the month. Okay, so in this feature, we're not going to go through all this, but you would set up the pay frequency, give it the month, end date, and then what pops in there is all your pay runs during that time. And then you would select which one would be representative of like a biweekly, a 2-week period. Check that box, and then you're going to calculate, you're going to figure out, well, I've got 5 days I need to accrue for. You're going to put that in the bottom, and then you're going to go ahead and hit calculate. If you're happy with the results, it will then, post button will appear, and then you can post that. You can also map the account. So when you do regular payroll posting, you're going to catch all the debits and credits across, benefits, taxes, etc. Well, you may not want to pull all that over. You can choose what you want to bring over in terms of accounts when you pull that other window down. Pay policies, we talked about adding on different policies, and there's a add-on codes that you can set up in the setup part of it. And then you can see over there or over here, you can see you got the company level, you got the department level, the position, and the shift code. And I said there's also pay codes, and that is right off the pay code window. You can add a percentage onto a pay code. So you can set up these policies. It also has a feature, don't think we're going to show it to you, where you can make exceptions. So maybe I mean, this never happens, where you have a department manager that may say, Mary Jane, we're going to give you a little more money for whatever reason than the standard. And so you may have to make some exceptions and add some more dollars onto her specific one. So it's employee specific on that. Okay, then we're going to go to advanced labor reports. And we've got these 5 labor reports. Pull that drop down again. Well, he's going to zoom right through here. So we have a benefit accrual for your benefits, and then of course we have the department summary and the department detail information. We've got employee analysis, which is a lot of detailed information on the employee level, and then FTEs. So a couple things you can do with this. For example, like Billy Bob may be over in his cube, and you want to track how many hours of productive time versus non-productive time. So they need to. A lot of companies need to know this, like to track the ratio of productive versus non-productive, and monitor and control those things. Even though Billy Bob may not look like he's productive, if he's an hourly or salary employee, that's productive. Non-productive would be like a bereavement. You might have vacation days, sick days, jury duty, etc. Those kinds of things. Holidays would be typically classified as non-productive. So that report would give you that. Now in the detail report, I mentioned here, in this report here, you start with a date range in the report, and then you can see here we have accounting. That would be the department. So the first department, I need a pointer, I guess, but the first department is accounting department. Now inside the accounting department, we can see it's going to be position accounting clerk. So this first top level is that. Then we have all the employees that are under that department and that position. Then it goes down to some little detail about that, whether full-time or part-time, etc. Then you get the columns of all their pay codes, shows their hours, their FTEs, and their earnings, and then year-to-date. So it shows this pay period and then year-to-date, which could be a fiscal year. Then after you get through this department and positions, then it goes to the next department, all those positions. There's a totals of positions. After each position, there's also a totals of department at the summary level. And that's a pretty handy one. Next, we're going to go to a PTO manager. So in PTO manager, you can set up schedules. I don't think I have data. You can put Adam Barr in here. You may have something. But you have various codes. You have 2 buckets. You have vacation and sick. Okay? And if you have 2 vacation policies, you could use the sick bucket as vacation because it's just another bucket. Then you have schedules. So your schedules would typically be, these are accruals. It only does accruals. So you have the accruals based upon hours worked per year. So from 5 to 10, I accrue 3 weeks vacation, 10 to 15, 4 weeks, etc. So you can set up those times. Maybe company has a policy where you accrue by the hours worked in a pay period. So that's another option. Sometimes life to date is another option. So there's several accrual schedules that you can set up to accrue from. Then you have other functions like waiting periods. Do you have a policy for a waiting period? Is it recurring? Is it based on an anniversary date? Those kinds of things, as well as carryover maximums and any time maximum. So at the end of the year or end of a annual anniversary, you can allow them to carry over so much. Anytime maximum is if it gets up to 300 hours, anytime it's going to keep it at 300 hours on that. So it adds some more flexibility, gives you a little information on that screen. So in certifications, here's an example of what the certification window looks like that you can track more information. And in here, we can have a certification code. You would call that probably demo. No.
Certified demo guy.
Certified demo guy. And here you put in the actual number. The key difference between the licensing window looks exactly like this, except it doesn't have the place to put a number in there. So you have to kind of skew that a little bit. And you can put in who the carrier is, the original date, the next date for renewal. And that will give you, and also the expiration, because it could need to be renewed by a certain date, but it really expires maybe a month later. So you can track all that. You got some user-defined fields that you can add to that window on that. Yeah, Dan was showing endorsements, for example, like with teachers. You know, they could be endorsed in math, science, etc. Driver's ed, whatever the case may be. I don't think I'd want to be one of the driver's ed ones. Okay, then the next one, let's see, I think there's one more behind there. Maybe, maybe not. It's that percentage. I thought we did, but maybe we didn't. If it's not there, it's not there. They have one that shows the percentage, and on that. So within your department, you can, if you're a manager, you can see all your employees. You can see which ones are expired, which ones are completed on all the certifications, licensing, and training that you have set up for those particular individuals. So it's very useful to see where you're at any point in time. Okay, on the business portal side, this is under the benefits in business portal, employee, then benefits. And in here we have the capability that the individual can come in here anytime and see his existing benefits if he wanted to. Listed here is his benefits, the 401k, the EPU, insurance, medical. Then for open enrollment, you can turn on the open enrollment. So if you have a 2-month period for open enrollment, it would display a message there. You can tell it what you want to do. And then you're going to be walking through a wizard. Dan's got this, it's broken down into the same as your health insurance in terms of retirement, health, insurance, life insurance, and other things. And you can enroll or waive. This is configurable by you, and you can set up, who gets to enroll. You can put in, the employee can put in, the amount of 401k they want to enroll for, etc. Then when you're finished, you'll get a confirmation statement of what you enrolled in. It can be printed out by the employee. And then over at the manager side, which Dan is heading to. Oh, he's going to have to catch up here a second. So at the manager side, what the manager can do is, he's going to come in, the HR manager that's going to approve this. He can come in here and he can see a list of all the employees, by group, what they've, where they're at in the process. So he can see, all right, this group of people has already completed everything. These are in process. This allows the employee to, maybe they know what they want for life insurance and retirement, but they're reading this and they're thinking, boy, I better talk to my spouse about this, health insurance or something. And he can suspend it basically, come back and finish it later. So it shows you that information also. And of course, when it's completed, everybody's complete, then the HR manager will post this. It will go into GP, into all the HR and payroll cards for benefits and deductions, make all those changes appropriately. Now this here piece, if you have several thousand employees or even a lot, it's a lot of work. If you're doing this with an outside service, you're paying extra for this. This can be all done in-house. You can set it up and control it yourself. The first year is probably a little more costly, but just probably a few dollars per employee. The next year, you're just tweaking it a little bit based upon new code you add, and then it really starts to pay for itself. So, okay, I think that's all I have. The key areas with the extended pack, one is compliance to regulations. So you have more features that help you to be compliant to regulations, and obviously would help you mitigate risk in your company with this feature pack by having your certifications, license, health and wellness, all that tracked. Okay. Dan, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
You're welcome.
Oh, we did that already. Okay, so some additional payroll and human resources. Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, all right. I have a big mouth, so it's usually not a problem. So these are other organizations within the Dynamics GP community that really understand payroll and human resources very well. Okay, and they work with a lot of customers, Dynamics GP customers today, and have for a long time. So, and this isn't a complete list. These are the ones that I picked off the top of my head 10 minutes before we started the session. No, I'm totally kidding. Weeks ago. So integrity data, of course, who I mentioned is us. I threw out some brochures on the chairs up here if you want to grab one. If not, that's okay too. Green Shades, which Matt is here from Green Shades. Green Shades provides tax filing services. So if one of your concerns is coming from an outsourced solution, such as ADP to Dynamics GP, well, tax filing is kind of painful, and I don't really want to do that. Green Shades offers a lot of tools that go right into Dynamics GP for reporting the tax structure to all the states, setting reminders for paying the taxes, actually handling the payments, and making that a very simple process, a very easy process for you to do when you're using Dynamics GP. McCorma provides some MICR checks capabilities for both payables as well as payroll checks. Time Matrix is just one example of a time entry solution or time card system that sits on front of Dynamics GP and is integrated directly with the table structure of Dynamics GP. There are many others as well. Corporate Renaissance Group has online performance reviews and 360 reviews and some fancy tools like that that really go above and beyond what a lot of organizations do. But if you really have an organized and somewhat complex structure for doing that, that might be a good tool as well. My Staffing Pro, while Dynamics GP does have applicant tracking components, My Staffing Pro provides some online tools for doing web applicant tracking or online applicant tracking. So that's just another helpful tool. And again, what I like about these organizations and why I put those on the screen is that even if you just have a question about how to do that or what's the best way to do that, whether using Dynamics GP, whether you're interested in their product or not, they will help get that question answered for you, even if it's sending you to somebody else to say, you need to talk to them because they really know how to do that. Or here's how you can do that within Dynamics GP. So that's why these people are on the board. Just not that I'm trying to advertise for them, but I know those organizations, and from my perspective, I know that those organizations will help you with whatever questions you have. Binary Stream has a tool that sits inside of Dynamics GP that lets you have employees from multiple companies in one Dynamics GP database and still get their W-2s sent out correctly. Okay, so if you have multiple companies, multiple federal employer identification numbers, and you want to keep those in one Dynamics GP company, then Binary Stream are probably some people that you might want to talk to, just to make that process go a little bit more smoothly. To sum up, and we will definitely stick around for questions. I know we're running a couple minutes late. It's almost 3 o'clock, but we'll definitely stick around for questions. Payroll and Human Resources is included with Dynamics GP 2013. That's why we thought you all might want to take a quick look at it. As you saw, it is integrated with the entire system. It sits inside of Dynamics GP. It's integrated with payables. It's integrated with human resources. It's integrated with financials, as Keith showed on the payroll posting account setup window. It's used by thousands of customers, primarily within the United States as well as Canada. A familiar navigation, a lot of robust functionality. It's easy to use. Reports out the wazoo, which is a technical term that I came up with myself. And as an action item, I would suggest connecting with your Microsoft partner or connect with any of the people that I had on the previous slide to help get your questions answered. If you're really going through that analysis of, do I want to bring payroll in-house? Do I want to use Dynamics GP Payroll? It's a big decision to make, and we understand that. And what we're trying to do is really just give you some high-level information about the solution so you can begin that process or decide if you want to begin that process and go from there. All right, questions? If you'd step to the microphone, I know they're recording the session, so just step up to the microphone. That way we can all hear it. Or if you want to throw it out, we'll be happy to repeat it. So go ahead.
Big on microphones. I had 3 or 4 questions. The business portal, I've never seen that before. So is that a 2013 thing or?
No, the question was, is Business Portal new? No, Business Portal's been around since 2003 or 4. So with version 8 or 9, I believe, of Dynamics.
Is it an additional module? Is it something additional or
Yes.
just comes standard?
No, it's included. It is now included with the starter pack from the payroll HR.
But for 2010, which is what we use, it's not included. It'd be something separate to purchase?
Yes,
It is?
it's an extra purchase, yes.
Yeah, the Business Portal itself
Okay.
is included. On 2010, you'll have to buy users for it, and the HR Self-Service Suite is an additional module
Right,
that you
right.
have to buy.
Which leads me to my next question, which you may not be qualified to answer, but we do not have the HR payroll at all. We're on 2010. So
Okay.
is it most cost effective to buy those modules or just upgrade to 2013 where it's included?
Upgrade to 2013.
That's what I
Yeah.
figured because it sounded pretty scary. Um, as far as the cost, because you were explaining like the breakout of it, so
Yes.
it was pretty impressive. For the employees to access the portal, let's say we got the HR module, do they have to be a user of Great Plains, or do they just need an employee card to be able to log into the portal and view their information?
They don't have to be a Dynamics GP user. They just need to have a user set up on the system to be able to access that information online.
Okay, great. And then my final question is, we currently use ADP, okay, so third party, and in order to get our payroll for the bank rec, I'm doing a manual bank transaction and entering in the payroll manually. It's really, really fun. So is there a way, if we got the payroll, module, to integrate, if they still wanted to keep ADP for some crazy reason, to integrate that information into Great Plains? Don't do it? Okay. So just bring it in-house or don't at all?
I don't have experience with that. Obviously, somebody does. If anybody else has experience,
do
feel free to
it.
chime in. There are ways to do it is the answer. Whether or not it's something you want to do or not
No.
is you might want to ask some
Yeah.
ADP stores their payroll data so much differently than GP.
Well, that's why I'm struggling to do my entries, because it doesn't match up very well.
And she said that the ADP stores their data differently than GP, if I'm summarizing you correctly, yes.
Yeah, way different tables. So also from a partner perspective, if you are considering,
if you would.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
if you are considering switching to payroll, do it on January 1st.
Yes,
Not
definitely.
do it earlier.
It's-
And part of the reason for that, if you don't do that, you have to bring in all your transactions month by month and post them. That's just a lot of extra time and work. It's difficult, depends on your complexity. Yeah, try to hit January 1st.
A question?
Just a remark, the person does need to be set up in the business portal in order to access.
That's correct. They do have to be a user within the business portal and be connected with an employee within Dynamics GP to make sure that somebody just can't log in and see any other employee's information. So there is a pretty nice security model around it.
Question?
The question was, is it just the basic module that's included, or is it extended included as well? And with the starter pack, it's payroll, human resources, direct deposit, mag media, position control,
Business portal.
business portal, the self-service suite. The extended pack were the things that Keith covered: the certification management, the advanced labor reporting, the pay policies, and some of those additional tools that you might need. There are some basic vacation.
The question was, what about the vacation accrual piece?
There are some basic vacation accrual capabilities within payroll as well as human resources. So you may or may not need that PTO functionality that we talked about in the extended pack.
Yep, your partner could help you determine if that was needed or not. Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is there another way to upload your employee information into the payroll module, or do you have to manually enter it? Can you upload an Excel spreadsheet?
When you mean as far as bringing in employees or
Yes.
setting up employees? Yeah,
You
there
know,
are ways.
You bought the package and you want to start. So how do you get your employees in?
Yeah, there are ways to bring in that data into the system versus keying it in. So if you've got the data set up on an Excel spreadsheet, a technical resource with either your organization or from your Microsoft partner can help you import that data so you don't have to key it all.
And the starter pack does provide integration manager for the implementation period that you can use to bring that data in. There's other tools, other ways to do that, but that works pretty well. Any other questions?
Go ahead. Yeah, so the question was, when you take the 401k deduction and move it to the AP transaction automatically, can the AP person see the detail? There's two things to that. One is you can code on the transaction deduction dates, etc. So in that case, it was for everybody. So they would just see the deduction code and check date. There are reports that would come out of payroll that would show, here's all the deduction codes, or here's all the deduction amounts for each employee. So that detail is available. It won't be available on the payables transaction.
You have a question? comment?
But you talked about Meg Media. What specifically does the package cover? Are you talking workers' comp? Are you talking federal, state?
My understanding of Mag Media is it's just federal. Is that
Yeah.
correct, Matt? Okay,
Yeah.
so just federal on Mag Media.
Okay. And then,
Green Shades handles everything else, is that right?
okay.
And what's your booth number?
We're in the 2100 row. I don't remember the.
Okay, there we go.
As long as you remember how to get home.
Yes.
The ability to build complex calculations. You have a retirement benefit which is based upon, say, gross wages minus auto allocation, cell phone allocation. Do you have that ability to build that sort of calculation?
I'll address that. Within the core benefit piece, you can choose what pay codes. So you can leave out the ones that you would subtract, from that. And then it depends on what exactly you're doing and what levels of matching you do. If you have a complex matching, we have a product, Enhanced Retirement Plans, that goes further, does a lot of things. Sometimes we would have to actually customize that capability.
Okay. We'll go ahead and wrap up, and we'll stick around for a few minutes if there's any additional questions. Please fill out your evaluations, and feel free to give as much feedback as possible. I know everybody looks at that to make sure that the sessions are valuable for you. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of Convergence.
And you're welcome to stop by our booth 1050.